Last September, that devastating photograph of Alan Kurdi, a young boy who drowned fleeing Syria with his family, prompted thousands of Canadians to action. Today, with 10,000 Syrian refugees settling into Ontario, local schools are welcoming thousands of children whose past trauma would be hard for most of us to imagine. Joining us now to find out how it's all going so far, we welcome Karen Falconer. She is Executive Superintendent, Continuing and International Education with the Toronto District School Board. Robert D. Prospero, Principal at Thornwood Public School, that's in the Peel District School Board. Carla Marchetti, Senior Coordinator, International Languages and Parent and Community Engagement with the Toronto Catholic District School Board. Zaina Hadra, School Settlement Response Worker with the Peel District School Board. And Mulugeta Abai, Executive Director with the Canadian Centre for Victims of Torture. And we are delighted to welcome all of you to TVO tonight for this discussion. I just want to set the table by putting up some numbers here. Sheldon, help me out with this if you would. More than 4 million people have fled Syria during that civil war, now in its 6th year. 10,000 Syrian refugees have been welcomed to Ontario since December 2015. About half of them are kids. And the province is going to spend $10.5 million over 2 years to support them. Let's just get a little more background in place before we have our conversation. What about the quality of the education that the Syrian kids have received so far? Well, here we go. In 2011, before the war began, 91% of primary-age children in Syria were enrolled in school. Where's it at now? Well, by 2013-14, primary enrollment in Syria had fallen to 38%. In the Syrian city of Aleppo, only 6% of primary children attend school. In the Za'atari refugee camp in Jordan, 39% of school-aged Syrian refugee children are not taking any form of education. Karen, let's get into this. We want to take a look at the initial intake of these refugee students into our school system. The TDSB, the Toronto Catholic School Board as well, teaming up, giving Syrians a taste of what it's like to be a student in a Canadian school. Simple question, how's it going?
It was an exciting project. As most of these students have now moved into their permanent homes, we're winding that project down. But it was particularly exciting for us because both the Toronto Catholic District School Board and ourselves were deeply concerned that we had students living in hotels for weeks on end, not having been schooled for years. Why were we wasting these precious weeks? And so Director Angela Gauthier and Director John Malloy gave us the go-ahead to get started on a program that Carla Marchetti and myself and many other engaged people set about taking all the children from 5 different hotels, putting them in our existing schools, using classrooms that were available, bringing in specialized teachers, our parenting, family, and literacy centers, and you should have seen the excitement as these kids ran for the school buses. The anxiety of the parents letting go of their children, the older ones, because from 0 to 5 years old, we let them go with their parents to the parenting, family, and literacy centers. But the anxiety of the parents as they were just letting go of their children to head, even the older ones, was reassured considerably over the ensuing days and weeks. And we had many new registrants over the first couple of weeks.
Let me get Carla's take on it. You're involved in this as well, obviously.
Yes. And it was exciting to work with the community partners, to work with Toronto District, and to mobilize all of our departments in order to make this program possible in a very compressed time.
Any idea how many kids are still in hotels?
We're actually down to almost no kids in hotels, so we've really taken it down to almost nothing, and most of the kids have landed in our schools. And so we've had the pleasure of going to visit the kids as they've transitioned from this temporary program that we set up to get them used to school, and they've moved into their more permanent schooling, and I can't tell you the joy and the reassurance for them that they're actually in a school.
This is interesting because one would assume that, forgive me for putting it this way, but there's been known to be bureaucracy in the education sector in this province. Okay, can I put it that way? And this is maybe an example of where the bureaucracy just sort of took a back seat to common sense and getting kids going?
Well, I think it actually reflected the will of Canadians as a whole.
There we go.
We were determined to greet these newcomers in ways, frankly, that we have greeted newcomers in the past. And it wasn't just the political goodwill. I think it was the goodwill of all of the communities involved, the parents, the extraordinary amount of goodwill amongst the teachers in the school. And you know, we used newcomers who were in the school already to help role model for the other kids coming in. So it wasn't just about the few, it was about the many.
Gotcha. Let's put some more information up here because we want to look at those who have been registered at the respective school boards that we've been talking about. So again, Sheldon, if you would. Newcomers to Ontario schools. Since November, the TDSB, that's Toronto, has welcomed nearly 500 Syrian students to its schools, 80% in the elementary level, 20% to the secondary level. Since March of this year, the Catholic School Board has welcomed 225 students, almost 80% elementary, little over 20% secondary. Since January of this year, Peel Region has registered more than 400 students, 83% elementary, 17% secondary students. Zaina, I want to get your expertise going here. You're a settlement worker. You specialize in education. What do you do to get these kids acclimated to a completely different school system?
So at Peel District School Board, we welcome the world centers where the families would come as a first step before heading to schools. And in our centers, the process is kind of two parts. So we have the settlement process, and then we have the assessment. We have assessors who are sitting with the children and trying to understand more about their education background, the gaps that might be in their education, and we convey the information to the schools, and that would help the teachers to be more prepared for the students when they come. While the teacher is assessing the children, settlement workers, myself and my colleagues would be sitting with the families and giving orientation about the education system in Ontario in general. And then if the family has elementary, we specify on elementary, secondary also. We talk a lot about secondary. We go into details about the day-to-day schooling system, about the tiny details that maybe the other people wouldn't think that they would need to know, but actually they do need to have a better understanding of the schooling system here.
Where are you from originally?
I am from Syria.
So you know this issue cold, right?
I do.
This is, you are a product of the Syrian school system?
Yes. So
okay.
All my schooling, I've done all my schooling in Syria.
What city?
Homs.
Homs, okay.
Yeah.
So you have a pretty solid understanding of what they would have learned had they stayed there compared to what they're going to learn here. What are you teaching newcomers about getting an education here that they wouldn't have a clue about otherwise?
Actually, as you mentioned, being from Syria and getting my education in Syria, it helps me a lot to focus specifically on the things that I would know that they wouldn't know. So even taking in consideration the day-to-day, like, if the child is absent, you need to call the school and report absence. We don't do this in Syria. Talking about the bus ride, that you have to be there for the child when the bus picks up the child or brings them back. Even talking about the drills that we have in our schools, which we don't also practice in Syria, taking in consideration that most of those children might have witnessed traumatic events. We also tell them about the lock and fire drills, the fire drills. We prepare them that this is not a scary drill. This is something that is a regular practice in our schools.
That's very interesting because, as Carla mentioned, I guess when they start to hear bells go or buzzers go, kids here think nothing of it, of course. But if you come from over there, you need to be told that that's not dangerous.
Yes. So we even go over that. We tell them it's okay. We spoke about the safety measures in our schools, which is, again, we don't have it in Syria. When you go as a parent to visit, you have to go to the office. You have to wear the badge. You cannot just kind of walk in the school. We definitely cover. The orientation is very, very comprehensive.
And do they get the hang of it?
They do. We always try to provide not only linguistic competent service, but also culturally. And as you mentioned, being from Syria, it's always helping me to cover those bits and pieces of culture differences in our orientation. We do one-to-one orientation, and as well as we do the group orientations for Syrians, refugee as a group.
Got it. Yep. Robert, how many students you got in your school?
We are closing in on 70 students.
What's it like when they just show up? What do the other kids do?
The other kids really just embrace them with open arms.
Seriously?
Absolutely, 100%. The majority of my students, of our students, come from another place, speak a different language at home. So they have already, they have that ingrown empathy and
no stranger anxiety.
No stranger anxiety whatsoever. In fact, it's a bit of a feather in your cap to have more than one Syrian student in your classroom. So it's actually, something that the students look forward to, and the teachers as well.
And you're K-5 only, yes?
We're K-5 only.
Okay. How are so we understand how the children who are already in your school are dealing with this. How about the new students? How well do they acclimatize to the new situation?
I would say they have acclimatized really well. For example, we had a lockdown procedure, and with a little bit of pre-teaching and with some pre-teaching that was already done at the We Welcome the World Centers, it ran like a regular lockdown practice procedure. But in terms of everyday learning, the students, hopefully what we try to do is provide them opportunities to continually speak Arabic, work and learn in Arabic in the schools. We let the parents know that Arabic is not only welcome, not only accepted, but welcome in the school. We actively are trying to recruit our parents to come and tell their stories in Arabic. And I think as a result, the students have really acclimatized really well. One thing that's actually helped is the number of students. So for example, we have, like I said, 70 students, and we were able to cluster students in classrooms. So one of the challenges we need to overcome typically is isolation and the silencing of newcomers. When children are trying to learn a new system and a new language, they tend to not speak a lot. So we're finding that because of the larger number in our school, it's helped us overcome that sense of isolation that the students might have.
There may be an assumption here that all of these new children are Muslims, but we have somebody from the Catholic District School Board here.
Yes.
So I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that they aren't all Muslims. Is that right?
There are Christian Syrians as well who are registering within our schools. We have a large contingent from the Armenian community. So the TCDSB policy is to register within our elementary school, either one of the parents or the child has to be baptized. Now, as we know, the Syrian newcomers may not come with the required documents. They may be associated with the parish, but we do not let the lack of paperwork impede their registering in our schools. So we are welcoming these students, and then we're working with the families in order to secure the documents.
I'm going to push back a little bit here because I can see people watching this thinking to themselves, this all sounds a little bit too good to be true. Are you telling me there's no pushback from parents who are concerned about having any of these kids in class with their kids? Are you telling me everybody's just hunky-dory, acclimating to their new circumstances, Robert?
In my school, there's been zero pushback. In fact, I think some of the energy that you mentioned that we felt as Canadians was really present when we started to intake these students in early February. There was one day when we had 27 come in, one Monday morning, when 27 students enrolled in our school, which was a record for our school. And it really just increased the energy level of, I know, the administration, the teaching staff, the students, the parents. It feels like we're all in it together.
But we have to be honest that the government has also helped to fund a lot of the incremental costs associated with having large numbers come in. So while, yes, we regularly welcome newcomers, we don't regularly welcome 20 a day, 20 new ones a day. And the Ministry of Education has been extremely clear that they are willing to fund whatever the costs are associated with this rather large influx. So yes, we regularly greet large numbers, but the class I was in yesterday had half the class was from Slovakia and half the class was from Syria. This was an ESL class in a high school class, one child from Afghanistan and another one from Iraq.
How well are they learning English?
They are learning English so well, but what's impressive is the supports around them. But we have to say it's because the government has agreed to fund the extraordinary numbers coming in. We regularly do this. You would see pushback from parents and communities if we weren't able to fund the large numbers coming in appropriately.
Okay. I want to let Mulugeta know you are allowed to speak on this program. And now we're going to talk to you. Mulugeta, I want to get a better sense about what these children have experienced before they've come to Canada. How many of them do you think are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder?
In my view, based on our experience, I think all of them. I think it's the degree that could be different. There are people who have experienced a direct trauma. There is trauma, what we call indirect trauma, meaning that they have not experienced it, but their family members have experienced it. There is also what we call family trauma, which is collective. That's what we see in Syria, because there is indiscriminate bombardment, indiscriminate, harassment of people. So that's where it lies. It depends on how they handle that, how the family is intact. There are a lot of factors that come to play when dealing with trauma.
Do you have a sense about what percentage of these children might have seen some of the worst horrors that we have seen on the news over the years?
I can only estimate based on our past experience. I think usually children are the silent victims because of what you explained. Most of the time they are in the school system. They want to fit in, and then after the school also because they learn the language very quickly, they assume adult responsibilities. So they don't show up to seek services unless otherwise they are referred by people in the school system that have seen certain signs and symptoms. So it's very difficult to tell. But majority of them have some sort of mental health problems.
We have actually a list here that we want to share with everybody of symptoms as they may present themselves if a student, a young student is suffering from PTSD. Sheldon, let's bring this up if we can. The student might seem lethargic. They might use and abuse substances. They might be reluctant to join some kind of physical activity. They might be aggressive, throw tantrums, be defiant. They may discuss war often. Violence can show up in their drawings. They may get easily frustrated. This all from the Welcoming Syrian Newcomer Students and Families to School information sheet. Robert, have you seen any of this?
On a large scale, no. In some instances, yes. We had one little boy who, on his first day, little kindergarten student, grade 5 boy, who just up and ran out of his classroom, and we went on a search for him. And sure enough, one of the other kindergarten teacher said, he's in here, Mohammed's in our classroom. I went in and he had found another boy that he had experience with. And he was sitting next to him and playing Lego, and I put my hand in his shoulder and I said, Mohammed, you just found a new classroom. So
you left him there?
So I left him there. So that was probably one of the first times I've ever done something like that. But we do see that kind of reliance on one another, and I think that might be part of how they support one another in terms of some of the things that we're seeing.
We do get some requests from the private sponsors, particularly when they live together with their sponsors or are in the neighborhoods. The private sponsors usually raise some concerns. One, seeking support for themselves because the Syrians would like to share what they have gone through, which is healthy in a way. But at the same time also it's very difficult for the person who is listening, who is hearing that, who has lived all their life sheltered lives. At the same time also because they live in a close contact with people who have children, they raise also about the problems that the children are facing. Bedwetting, for example, nightmares, some of them not wanting to go out and play with their friends, isolation. Those are the signs and symptoms that we see.
Zaina, as wonderful as children can be, they can also be cruel as hell. And I wonder how does a newcomer who has been through a war zone of Syria deal with, I'm not saying we have examples of it here, but potentially, they're going to have to deal with bullying, they're going to have to deal with teasing, taunting, maybe being left out or excluded from various class activities. How are they going to deal with all that in addition to all of what they've already experienced?
So far, what I've seen from the clients that came to our centers, there's great resiliency. Like, it's amazing what they've been through, but still how resilient they are. So it's not just because, I think not because they're children, but also what they've been through built that strength. So with the assumption, sometimes we think we get that assumption that they're going to be weak, they're going to be lacking of strength, but not really. From what I've seen, I don't know if you agree with me, but from what I've seen, I think they're showing great strength, they're showing great resiliency, and definitely my feeling about this is it's going to take some time, and then when they sit back and relax, they will have some time to reflect, and then we might be seeing some of those signs and symptoms as you shared that we're not able to see now.
So this may be a delayed reaction.
I think so, and I think it's also very important for settlement workers who meet the family at the first stop to have a very good knowledge about the signs of mental health issues and be able to identify it. I've already referred many of my clients to CCVT, and we have a great partnership with you. We're seeing And we're also adapting our process to accommodate those children. We're seeing children extremely attached to the parents, have the anxiety of separation. One of the, usually our process is that when the children being assessed, the parents don't sit with them, but in those cases, we're adapting, we're changing. It's okay for the parent to be in the room if the child needs him to be. So I think it's also creating that safe environment for them. It's very important.
And I agree with you, Zaina. At the hotels, we had to deal with hand-to-hand giving the children to the Arabic instructors that we had there from our international languages program. And in fact, the teachers, what they said to us is that they should have been at the hotels to also meet the parents and have the children, because the physical hand-to-hand handing off into the schools was extremely important. They kept their jackets on for longer. They tended to take they had their stuff in bags. They tended to hold the bags close to them. And one of our schools, unfortunately, was on something of a flight path to Pearson Airport. And so some of the kids in the class actually had reactions when they would hear the plane flying above. So the teachers would watch those children very carefully to reassure them this wasn't a sign of danger. So those were the kinds of pieces, but again, those were with the very young children. With the older children, we haven't had as much showing yet. I agree with Zaina.
I think one thing we need to see also, it's too early. I think the first people to show up for support are the parents. I think because they want to see us, if we are really there genuinely to help them or just simply hear their stories.
They're skeptical, are they?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, because they have been betrayed before, by a government that's supposed to protect them.
Right.
Their own government, their own people. So we have a partnership, for example, we Welcome the World, and we assign 2 staff members initially to see adults that are in the ESL classes. But once the adults established a relationship with the counselors, they started talking about their children.
So if you can convince the parents, the kids will come along.
Yeah, exactly. That's very important.
I want to also add that it's very important to understand the stigma that we have in the Arabic world about the mental health issues. So it's very, very important. When you want to tell them about the counselors that we have, you have to be very culturally sensitive about that. You have to put it in a way that if you're mentally healthy, then physically you're healthy. So it's very challenging to come over that stigma also.
Here's some ideas here. This is this is from British Columbia's Ministry of Education, dealing with anxiety in refugee students. And here's a bit of a to-do list here. Assign a buddy. I mean, some of this is common sense, right? A classmate, older student to each refugee student. Provide a map and a tour of the school and the neighborhood so they feel more comfortable. Provide access to a quiet area for times when the student feels overwhelmed. Be aware, we talked about this earlier, that things such as police officers, soldiers, bells, fire and lockdown drills, dark hallways, the sound of marching footsteps in airplanes, unfamiliar celebrations like Halloween with masks or firecrackers, all of that can trigger fear or painful memories. It's interesting. We just wouldn't even think twice about this stuff, people who've been in the school system here for a long time. Carla, are these techniques that you have already seen used?
Yes, and so what we have in our intake is that we ensure that there's an interpreter there for parents to assure them of the requirements in the school system. We have to be very flexible. We have to be very sensitive to the needs of each family as they are presented to us, regardless of their sponsorship. And so flexibility, some students or some children do experience separation anxiety. Therefore, it has to be flexible. Maybe they can only come in for 1 hour at a time into our school system. Certainly in the schools where we've had parent and family literacy centers, that has also been a bridge, because parent and family literacy centers are set up for children from 0 to 6 years old. Parents go with the children into the centers. There's a wealth of resources, literacy materials in Arabic, and they are staffed by registered ECEs for that. And for those younger children that would be of junior, senior kindergarten ages, it provides provides them a transition time to get acclimatized to the school and then to move into a JKSK. So and again, having a point person for each student so that they understand that whether it's a guidance counselor, chaplaincy, or whether it's the main office, that when we intake them, that for the next couple of weeks, they are greeted, that there is a common place where they are welcomed into the schools is very important.
I think it's very important that whatever service we provide, it should be holistic. Mm-hmm. It should address not only the children's or the youth's problems, but also the family as a whole. Mm-hmm. So what this is our learning. So what we are developing now is, yes, we have mentoring classes for them for the academic purposes, but at the same time also to establish relationships with the same age group. What about the parents? Mm-hmm. Most of the parents have also gone through a lot of traumatic experience. Yes. The network they have cherished has completely been broken. So what we are doing now, we have what we call group programs or group therapy that brings people who are knowledgeable about Syria, like Zainab, to talk to the Syrian women, for example. But at the same time, also, we have a person who is knowledgeable about the Western style of doing counseling or crisis intervention, so that they can take the good from both sides. Because for some, our experience has been when we organize, we ask the people that come seeking our services to see a psychiatrist, what they tell us is, I am not crazy. It's the person who tortured me that's crazy.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Usually what they do is they go to families, to face groups, to friends if they have problems. But here it is different. It's all rush.
Zaina, let me ask you this. Generally speaking, how long does it take before somebody who's been through the trauma of war back in their homeland comes here, tries to get integrated into a completely new country, new way of doing things? How long before those children are just like any other kids in the school system?
I think I would say the main worry is not really about the children, it's about the parents.
It's the parents.
Yeah, because I believe, as Robert shared, in our schools we have great support, and even in the TDSP, it's great support. I think the children are well taken care of in our schools, but it's always that the parents are, I wouldn't say forgotten, but they're not in the picture all the time.
They're not the priority at the moment.
Yes, we're more kind of concerned about the children, to send them to schools, get them settled in the schools. And I believe Peel District School Board have gone so far in providing that great support in our schools.
In which case, how long does it take before the parents feel like everybody else?
It does take time.
So I would say that all of our boards are funded, in fact, for adult English second language programs, both by the federal government and by the provincial government. So we have adult ESL, all of us, and we really work hard, and we have partnerships actually to make sure that we do take care of the adults. So we try, and certainly all of the resettlement agencies have been really trying to get the parents into these adult ESL programs as quickly as we can, so that we have some way of bonding with the parents. And also to help them understand a little bit of how we work. Because one of the challenges we found actually in the schools was mixing genders in the classroom, getting the boys and the girls to work together quickly. So getting the parents to understand how the schools work is as important as getting them to understand the language. So all of that.
Since you mentioned language, Robert, I want to follow up with you. We're going to show these images now. Here are some pictures of one of your Syrian refugee students. We're going to put them up, so look at the monitors here in the studio. This is some artwork from a young boy named Nabil. He got here in mid-January. Robert, over to you. Just take us through this. What are we looking at? So
what this is called is an identity text. And what we're trying to do is to provide an access point for the students into the curriculum and into learning languages. An identity text is any artifact that the student produces. In this case, it's a piece of writing, but it can be a video, it can be a number of different things.
So the student did the picture, the text underneath, obviously.
The text in Arabic underneath is Nabil's, and the text in English is a collaboration between Nabil and his fellow students. And in a lot of cases, as the students progress through, they'll start writing in the English quite readily.
What is the value of doing that?
The value in doing that is, first of all, an identity text allows the student to see themselves in a positive light. They see themselves as somebody who's able to produce productively in the classroom setting. So I think the underlying idea is that, these students come with assets. We look at them not as deficits, but as what they can bring to our school. And the students really respond positively to that. It also puts, we have a dual language showcase. It actually showcases some of this language out to the entire world. And again, that helps the students see themselves in a positive light and construct knowledge in English and in their first language, which they're leveraging to continue to understand English, to really help them move through their linguistic development.
Let me pick up on that with Zainab, because obviously we assume they come here without very much English at all. But if they, I mean, we saw those numbers earlier, if as many as 3/4 of them haven't had any formal education in Syria either, do we have to assume that their Arabic isn't very good either?
Yes, and we're definitely seeing this. And what we're doing is that we have international languages program that runs on Saturdays, and one of the languages that we teach is Arabic. So we also give that option to the parents that when you're settled, when you're more comfortable, then this is the information. We would definitely encourage you to put the kids in the Arabic classes that we run on Saturdays. It's very important. We also speak about how important it is to maintain both languages. It's very important. It's part of their identity. We don't want them to forget the Arabic. So we're actually giving them, we speak about the dual language books to read stories, both in Arabic and English. We do have some available in our schools and also in the general libraries. So yes, we're seeing lots of them, they're illiterate even in Arabic because they haven't had any schooling for the past 4 or 5 years.
Well, one of the messages, though, that really resonates with parents is when we say that, students should come to school and acquire things, not come to school and lose things. So, it's important to maintain your Arabic language or what languages that you have. Schools should never make students less than what they were. So if you come with 2 languages, hopefully you leave with 3 languages. And that message really resonates with parents, and I think helps them to understand that their language and their experience is welcome in our school.
Yeah, to come back to the RT showed, I think that's very good expression. Because they have been living in a circle of silence. They're unable to express themselves. Now, when they do that, they are seeking some sort of a circle of support or are becoming agents of their own recovery. They are releasing what was inside, what they wanted to say, who they are, which is very important.
This may also be the first time in their lives that they have ever played.
That's
right?
true. Yes, yes. It's very important that they express. I think art therapy is an important tool for people who are not ready to talk about their own traumatic experiences. It allows them to release the steam, at least to a certain degree. To come to the language classes as well, we have seen about 81 families from the Syrian since December. What we are trying to do is, these are mostly privately sponsored families. We are trying to encourage the sponsors themselves to develop what we call survival English.
Survival English.
Survival English. So if there are 5 people sponsoring a family of 4, they take turns. And it's basically what it is it's conversation circles. Teach me Arabic, I teach you English. Now you are empowering that person, you are treating that person on an equal basis, but at the same time also you are showing them that you care, okay? Which would become later on very important for the conflict that might arise with their children. There is going to be sooner or later intergenerational conflict.
Right.
The children would like to run.
Carla.
So just taking up on the parent component, what we've done is that we've had Syrian newcomer information sessions in the evening for parents. We've had partnered with communities and offered parent programs on Saturdays at a school and invited and bussed in parents from other schools for these information sessions, so parents know where they can get information. What has surfaced from these information sessions is that parents really want to know how they can support learning at home when they don't speak English. So again, reassuring them that they can read to their children in Arabic, because we know through international language instruction that those literacy skills are definitely transferable. We also have the International Languages program in the after hours, and what we've done, which we have not done previously, is to provide programs at the same centers for the parents so that they can do information sessions, they can get working English, and they can also do networking and the socializing for that.
Karen, do we have adequate numbers of people who can teach Arabic in the schools to kids who have not had the literacy
Well, we
when they
have
come over here?
32,000 students in the Toronto District School Board who are currently studying international languages. One of them is Arabic. So let me tell you, we have a lot. And I think what both boards did at the hotels is those were the people we used in the hotels to bond with the families, to let them know, to bring them into our communities and our schools. So when they attend those international languages classes, they're also bonding with the other parents who are bringing their kids to those international languages classes. So yes, we certainly, I think on both counts, on all boards counts, have enough instructors. But what we really want to underline is it's interesting to watch children play, because when you watch them play, whether it's in the International Languages program or at school, I'm telling you, in the hotel, we were trying to plan, both boards together, how we were going to be managing this schooling on a temporary basis. And what do you think half of our people were doing? They were playing soccer with the kids in the hallway of the hotel, which they shouldn't have been. So children do play. They find ways to play. And I agree with everyone. The resilience of these kids, the wanting to belong. You know what their favorite moment was in the temporary schooling? We got them to write up before they left? Singing O Canada. Standing up and singing O Canada with the school. Like, they want to be a part of our schooling experience. And I think the efforts of the people around the table and the community at large speaks to that.
But Steve, if I can add, I don't think we'll ever have enough people, teachers that can teach Arabic explicitly. So I think it becomes incumbent on schools to really think about a linguistically appropriate practice and a culturally appropriate practice that supports language development in the first language and in their second languages.
Let me guess, you pull older kids out of the higher grades in order to help the little kids.
Absolutely, we do, and to help us communicate with parents. I have a little boy in, well, he's not so little, a grade 5 boy who's just my main translator in times of need. So. But I think it's incumbent upon the schools to really think about a whole school approach. You talked earlier about a whole student approach. It's really a whole school approach in my eyes, in terms of servicing and really providing an environment for these students to excel and see themselves in a real positive light.
I hope that student you just referred to is getting extra credits for being the translator for the...
Straight A's.
There we go. In our last minute here, what could we do better?
I think we're already doing, if you would agree with me, great job. I mean, as you mentioned, the great will that the Canadian showed towards the Syrian, the great collaboration among the service providers. It's been amazing. It's been a great experience so far. What really is surprising me, and being from Syria, it's kind of like both ways. It's very rewarding for me to serve those families, but also it's very challenging sometimes to disconnect myself emotionally from what I hear and what I listen. But I think I'm taking pride of being Canadian and Syrian at the same time, because I've seen this overwhelming response to the Syrian influx. It's been great. I think we can just count more on the partnership and the collaboration among the service providers.
So let's learn a few words of Arabic before we leave today. Is it salam alaikum? Is that what we say?
Salam alaikum, marhaba.
Marhaba?
Marhaba,
which means
hello.
Marhabal.
Marhaba.
Marhaba. And how about goodbye?
Bye. Yes, salam.
Salam.
Yeah. And shukran.
Shukran.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All these work. There we go. I learned a little bit more Arabic today. That's good. Ciao works everywhere in the world, though, doesn't it? Ciao, exactly. It's good of all of you to come into TVO tonight and help us out with this. Thanks so much to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit supporttvo.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.